E2 Brutus.
Nice morning.
I'm going to a place that I never knew existed until I found it on Google Maps last month. Limited bus travel from Monmouth to Newport and all around the Newport bus network get an all-zone day ticket for £9. We've arrived at the Hanbury Arms, perhaps the oldest inhabited building in Caerleon, just outside of Newport. That's the bus up there going to Newport. I'll need to catch that later. You can see the remains of the old castle's round tower merging into the facade of the inn. Built in the 16th century by the prominent Morgan family, also of Tredegar House, as their townhouse, its Tudor-style finishings have survived for over 400 years. In September 1856, the poet Alfred Lord Tennyson stayed here while planning his epic Idylls of the King. At one point he wrote, "The Usk, that's the River Usk here, murmurs by the windows, and I sit like King Arthur at Caerleon." Before it became a pub, it was a storehouse for the local tin plate industry and for a while a lock-up for prisoners. Adjacent to here was a quay, a port that evolved after the Roman times. A tramroad linked up to the port and carried iron ore from the Welsh valleys onto ships headed to Bristol. The tramroad fell out of use with the development of the railways. What it didn't have in the good old days was pie and ale for £13.50. Bloody hell. What we are here for today is to find traces of an army that once held the edge of the Roman world. Caerleon used to be known in ancient Rome as Isca Augusta, the fortress of the Legion. Founded around 75 AD by Governor Sextus Julius Frontinus, yeah, fancy name, Isca was built to finally break the Silures, a fierce Celtic tribe that had resisted Roman rule for over 30 years. It became one of only 3 permanent legionary fortresses in all of Britain, serving as the headquarters for the elite Second Augustan Legion. Within these 50-acre stone walls, over 5,000 professional soldiers lived, trained and built an empire. Today you can still walk through the only Roman legionary barracks visible in Europe, catching a glimpse of the cramped quarters where men stored their weapons and slept between battles. But life wasn't just about war. At the heart of the fortress stood massive baths, a luxury leisure complex where soldiers could soak in an 80,000-gallon swimming pool, or they could socialise in heated halls, bringing a taste of Mediterranean civilization to the wild Welsh frontier. Just outside the walls lies the most complete Roman amphitheatre in Britain. It could seat the entire garrison, that's over 5,000 people, baying for blood during gladiatorial combats and wild animal displays. Centuries later, these ruins inspired legends. Local folklore long claimed this oval mound was the site of King Arthur's Round Table. Anyway, it turns out the amphitheatre here isn't open until 10, so I'm going first to find the barracks. This looks like some quiet, unassuming field, but here we're stepping directly into the living quarters of the Roman Empire's elite. These are the only Roman legionary barracks currently visible in all of Europe. At its peak, this fortress was home to over 5,000 professional soldiers, To house them, the Romans built 60 massive barrack blocks, each nearly 74 metres long. Life here was a masterclass in military efficiency. Each block held a centuria of 80 men, divided into small squads of 8, called a contubernium. These 8 men shared just 2 rooms, a small front room for storing heavy weapons and armour, and a larger back room for sleeping. No IKEA furniture here. Rank had its privileges. At the end of every block stood the centurion's quarters, spacious multi-room apartments for the officers and their staff. Nearby, just against the fortress walls, were the ovens and communal toilets where the legionaries baked their daily bread and shat it out again. Originally built of timber and clay in the 1st century, the barracks were rebuilt in stone around 259 AD. An ancient inscription even records how the 7th cohort's barracks were restored from the ground up during the mid-3rd century under the emperors Valerian and Gallienus.
Oops.
Locals were just telling me about how this site featured on a TV show called The Time Team, and that there are currently some ongoing excavation works to try and discover more about the site, which is good to hear. Now onto the amphitheatre, which seems to open at 10 o'clock, but it's free to enter, so that's great. For centuries, locals called this site the King Arthur's Round Table, but beneath the quiet grass lies a far more violent reality. This is the Caerleon amphitheatre, the Roman equivalent of a multiplex cinema where the only shows were written in blood. It was built around 80 AD, and this massive ellipse was designed to seat the entire Second Augustan Legion stationed at the fortress. Measuring roughly 41 by 56 metres, its stone-walled arena was once covered in sand or gravel to provide a better grip for those fighting for their lives. Of course, the engineering was well thought through. Spectators entered through 8 distinct entrances. The main gateways, or Portae Pompei, led directly into the arena, while side stairs led to benches ascending high earthen banks. Beneath the surface, a complex drainage system worked silently to clear away rainwater and, perhaps, the remains of the day's combat. It might not all have been for entertainment, though. There were probably military parades and lectures or some form of training going on here. And long after the Legion marched away, Geoffrey of Monmouth claimed that this was where King Arthur was crowned, and thus forever twinning Roman history with British myth. Out of the amphitheatre, you've got the car park, so yeah, you could conveniently drive and park here if you didn't take public transport. The tourist information office is supposed to be here, so we might as well check it out at the same time. I'm not sure if these toilets are free. Okay, so the tourist information office maybe isn't here anymore. Looks a little bit empty, doesn't it? It just seems to be a rugby club's facilities. Here's a sculpture made from an old tree. This one's got Vino Veritas written on a butt. Doesn't that mean wine of truth or something similar? Well, there's a cafe along here that could be nice to sit out at. I'm not sure though if it's for club members only. Thought the name of this Rialto was really funny, so sorry, I couldn't resist keeping it in. I'm heading into the centre of Caerleon town, which has more than just Roman history attached to it. Now, here is a fine house. This is Radford House, and it was built in the 18th century. As far as I'm aware, it's now a guest house. Behind us is the old charity school, built in 1724 with funds raised by Charles Williams. Now, Charles once challenged his cousin, Edmund Morgan, yes, a Morgan, to a duel, and he killed his cousin. And because it was illegal to hold duels, Charles had to flee the country. He subsequently earned a fortune as a fig trader, and he used some of that money for the school. Next stop, the National Roman Legion Museum was constructed using recycled materials from the town's old market house. It's free to enter and contains many excavated artifacts from the site's Roman past, as well as a Roman-style garden out the back. From the currency used in soldiers' pay to the weapons and uniforms, every object tells a story of a mega military machine that conquered Europe. But the museum also captures personal, human sides of the Legion. There are trinkets and symbolic objects embedded in pagan beliefs. This is a lead casket in which the remains of a person was found wrapped in linen cloth. Outside, the history continues in a replica Roman garden. This peaceful sanctuary isn't just for show, it's filled with medicinal plants and ornamental features that the Romans would have recognised and used in their daily lives. They've even got a Romanised toilet. Ha! Okay, back outside to look for the Roman baths. Now at first sight this looks like an ordinary car park, but over there in that building are Roman baths. Now I've just decided not to go in there today because it's not free and time is already getting along. And this wasn't just a pool, it was a total wellness experience. The Olde Bull Inn is a 16th century building, again another Tudor building. Apparently during renovation work around 100 years ago, they found a hidden stairway and room in the roof. So a neat hiding place for anyone dodging the law. But today it looks like a good place to eat. The road also holds some other historic curios. For example, why would a wealthy tin plate master build 20-foot walls to hide his home from his own neighbours? The Mynde was once the site of a powerful Norman stronghold. In 1820, John Jenkins, a prominent tin plate master, built his home here. But as the Chartist movement swept across the country demanding democratic rights and parliamentary reform, Jenkins feared for his home and his life. And that fear was real. So one of the last and largest Chartist protests actually took place in the centre of Newport City, not far away. And to protect his family from a potential Chartist attack, Jenkins encased his 4-acre grounds in extraordinarily high walls and fortified turrets. He turned the ruins of a medieval castle into a private 19th century bunker, creating a barrier between the wealthy elite and the working class revolutionaries. Hidden behind these walls is the Mynde itself, a massive earthen mound that served as the moat for the first Norman castle built here shortly after the conquest. Though the castle was destroyed and rebuilt many times, surviving battles with Welsh princes and the rebellions of Owain Glyndwr, the mound remains one of Caerleon's most dominant landmarks. Even the house has a strange story to tell. In 1870, a later owner, Thomas Woollett, tried to add an extra story to the building. He was stopped dead in his tracks by a legal injunction called Ancient Lights, filed by the neighbour across the street to protect their sunlight. The work was never finished, finished, leaving the house with its distinctive, unusual frontage. Oh, lovely.